We concluded tonight's class by exploring the selfless nature of true joy. Selfless in terms of God, selfless in terms of man, and how in that selfless space, we have the greatest joy. And joy really brings us closer to God. It's very interesting. Guess what? Rosh Hashanah is around the corner. I know, you might not want to hear that, but it is, right? This Shabbos Sunday is already the 1st of Elul. In a month, we have Rosh Hashanah. Then we get holier. We have Yom Kippur. Then we have Sukkot. Then we have the height of the whole holiday cycle, Simchat Torah. The height of the holidays. And that is all about joy. Brothers say, what? Dancing then is holier than praying and fasting all day on Yom Kippur? That sounds very bizarre. Like, no way. No way. I was so holy on Yom Kippur. I was so holy on Rosh Hashanah. I said so many psalms, so much Tehillim. I fasted the whole Yom Kippur. And then Simchat Torah, I danced. And that's holier. But if we understand that the essence of our connection to God is about giving up ourselves, selflessness, being completely one with God, not seeing ourselves as separate from God, recognizing we're all a manifestation of God. So when you have joy, this really expresses you got it. I'm one. I'm one with God. That's how I can have joy despite everything else going on in my life, because I'm so one with God. So when you're joyous, you're not really thinking about yourself. You're in touch with the greatness of God. You're aware God is one with you. And that's why, despite everything, you're still full of joy. And that is the most precious height of our relationship. Like any other way we serve God, maybe is expressing self. Maybe, not for sure, but maybe. But real joy is bitul, is nullification, is absence of self. The only way to feel real joy is to let yourself go completely. Otherwise, you always have something burdening you. You always have some problem weighing you down, making you not feel right to be so happy. But just when you leave yourself, you can feel joy. And leaving yourself is when you recognize you're one with God, and then you're out of the limitations of self, and then you can feel that joy. And that's why we say, the sages say, joy breaks through all boundaries. Meaning, on a very practical perspective, when you're happy, you can overcome things you normally can't overcome. Maybe you have this weakness. Oh, I can't deal with it. But when you're happy, you can deal with it. Maybe you're insecure and not confident. But when you're happy, you are. When you're happy, you're more in touch with your essence. You're not limited by your ego. You're not limited by yourself. And whatever feeling you're giving out, that comes back to you. So the more happy you are, the more you create this happy energy that comes back to you. That makes you a more successful, more fulfilled person, a happier person. It's like just spiraling, cyclical. I create joy, I feel the joy. I receive the success. My joy, literally, the sages say, creates my success. Joy gives me an energy, literally an energy to overcome anything, all of my problems. In other words, a lot of times you could be thinking, as I'm talking about joy, well, yeah, joy would be a good distraction. I'm distracting myself from my problems. I'm being happy. I'm thinking about happy thoughts. I don't have to think about my problems. But no, joy does something much deeper. Joy arouses your real powers, your real energy to break through your problems, to solve your problems, to get out of your problems. It's a very, very high road of serving. And we all can do it. And we all should do it. It's a nice gift to ourselves. It's a nice gift to our husband. It's a nice gift to our kids. Because when we are in this space of joy, everyone around us like gets perfumed by our joy, and they feel better too. And then the house has a nicer energy, a nicer feeling tone, a place where people like want to be. You know, if you're in a house where everyone's like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so tired. So fetchy. So this, so that. Like, who would want to be there? It's like a draining place because everyone feels so drained. But if you're creating this joy in my undeservedly blessed life, joy in my relationship with God, no matter what else is going on, joy in the awareness that what I'm dealing with is exactly God's script for me. This is what He wants me to deal with. That's why I'm dealing with it. I then have the ability to change it. I have the energy. I have the positivity. I have the success because I have the joy. It's a high road of serving. It's a positive road of serving. It's still work. Of course, it's work. It's a lot of work to stay like that. But it's unbelievable work. I think sometimes one of the roads to joy is, again, we're saying when one's selflessly not feeling self, just feeling God. That might feel like very remote from us. But maybe we could think of a time we were selfless for someone else. If you could think of a time you really put yourself aside, you were really selfless for someone else, and you can remember what you felt. It might have been very difficult. It might have been very uncomfortable. You might not have been feeling joy during the experience, but surely you felt it afterwards. Surely you felt afterwards just that great positive feeling. It doesn't have to be the biggest, hardest thing. This Shabbos, I made a Shabbos challah for a woman. It's her second marriage, whole story. And I mean, she wasn't going to have it if someone didn't make it. And I asked her if she wanted. She said yes. So okay, whatever. I didn't work so hard. One-stop shopping at Kultu, a few WhatsApps. I didn't work so hard for it. But I felt so happy during and so happy after. I felt so happy. I saw her face when she walked in and she saw the beautiful table with Kultu's best all over it. And she was so happy. And that made me feel so happy. Was it a big, hard, difficult self-sacrifice on my part? No, not at all. No. Just meant making sure my house stayed clean over Shabbos, basically. But it gave me such joy. I wasn't doing it to get joy, but it gave me such joy. And I am sure all of us have had that experience numerous times. And it's not about you. You're doing something for someone else. And you're not doing it for yourself. So you're not doing it to feel happy. You're really literally doing it for someone else, but you feel so good. Anyone have such an experience they remember that they'd like to share with us? Okay, well, I am sure everyone's had these experiences. Very common experience. We've all done it. We've all been there for other people. And again, not that we're doing it for the perks. We're doing it to help someone. But
for me, it's working now.
I'm glad. Now we hear your voice, Miriam.
I don't know if this applies to what you're saying, but for me, giving tzedakah without the other person knowing makes me feel good.
Absolutely.
Without my name being all over. I don't like that without knowing, So for me,
that's for sure is that idea. You're doing it for someone else, and it's not for you. It's not about your honor. No one's gonna put you on any dinner over this. It's just to help another person. That feels really, really, really good. I think this is just like how we're wired as Jews. We really feel good when we help other people. And it's just, and I think the more selfless it is, like Miriam's saying, giving charity and the other person doesn't know, it gives us a better feeling than giving charity and the other person knows. It gives us a better feeling than giving charity and everyone gives a lot of honor for the charity we gave. It's a different type of joy. It's a very inner, deep joy, just knowing this is pure. This is just about helping another person. And what I'm saying, the reason I'm saying this is also in our current situation, whatever that situation is that's pulling us down, we can step out of it and be there for someone else. Be there in a very selfless way. It just like puts everything in perspective. It just makes us see our life in a very different way. And again, sometimes it's really easy to lose it, and we just have to go back to basics. There's a story of a man. I forget his name, so I'm not going to say it. But he was the descendant of some great tzaddik. And from his ancestor, he had tefillin. Very, very like heirloom tefillin. Holy, holy tefillin, because his father, grandfather, great-grandfather was a very holy Jew. These are very, very precious tefillin. I believe this was like during World War I, around that time when, everybody was very poor and nobody had any money, and Sukkot was coming. And he didn't have money for an esrog. And maybe because it was a war, so esrogs were astronomical. And he wasn't going to have an esrog. And right or wrong, this was his relationship with God. He sold his tefillin. I mean, he obviously had another pair, but he sold this heirloom, precious tefillin from his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, these very holy, holy, special tefillin to get a lot of money. And he went and he bought an esrog. Now, the esrog you use for a week. It's for Sukkot, then it's over. So he comes home with this beautiful, beautiful esrog. And his wife sees it. And we could totally relate. She completely lost it. She completely lost it. Like, whatever. I think we can all understand exactly what she's feeling. The kids are starving. We don't have any money. Maybe no money to marry off this one or that one. There's never any money, but we would never touch those tefillin. Those are the holiest thing we have. Those are the most precious thing we have. They're from your father, grandfather, great-grandfather. They're so holy. And you sold it for an esrog? That in a week is nothing? And she was so mad. She took the esrog and she bit it. She bit off the pitum, bit off the stem. So now it was invalid. He couldn't use it for Sukkot anymore. It was a not kosher esrog. And he said, to God, I lost my holy ancestors' tefillin. And I lost my esrog. But I'm not going to lose my temper. And he started to dance. He didn't have the tefillin. He didn't have the esrog even. But he had his relationship with God. That he didn't lose. And that was more important than anything else. So, when you're in such a state, basically you feel you lost everything. Everything's stripped away. But you're not going to lose God. And that's obviously a very high level. And obviously, we're not blaming his wife one drop. Totally understand where she was coming from. But it's an unbelievable expression of anything could be going on in your life. But you could still have that joy of knowing who you are, knowing what you are, knowing what's real in your life. Maybe that's why it says Mashiach, redemption, and joy, Sameach are the same letters. Then we'll naturally have joy for real. But at this moment, whatever we're going through, however hard it is, whatever the challenge is, It's all part of God's script for us. It could be exactly God's challenge for us to say, okay, God, this is your script. This is what you want from my life at the moment. I'm doing it. And I'm going to do it with joy because I know this is what you want. Sometimes just that line carries us over whatever hard situation we're going through. This is your script. This is the life you want me to lead, at least for today. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it with joy. I'm going to do it with joy because this is what you want for me. This is what you want my life to be today. This is what you know is best for me. And no matter what I have or don't have, I can always have joy. Okay, so we are going to stop at this point, and hopefully comes the hard work of each of us trying to apply it and really, really, really get into that. No matter what else is happening, no matter what we have or what we lose, we can have joy. And that's a very, very precious thing that carries us over every situation. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad, Miriam, you figured out how to unmute. Thank you so much for joining. We should really be able to apply this. Have a wonderful, happy, positive, centered week.
Oh man, this was amazing. Thanks, Mrs. Turn.